Ladies and gentlemen, today we have some absolutely crazy breaking news. You see, numerous inside reports are now confirming that tomorrow, Keir Starmer, the United Kingdom's Prime Minister, is set to meet President Trump's economic demands in an effort to avoid President Trump's tariffs. But not only that, these very same reports are also confirming that Keir Starmer is ready to acknowledge that globalism is effectively a failed experiment. Now, folks, this is a big topic and we are going to have a lot to talk about. So you know what? Without further delay, let's just jump right into things. As one report reads, UK's Keir Starmer to declare globalization is over in stunning reversal. The British Prime Minister plans to acknowledge Trump's tariff logic despite disagreeing with his methods. A top Downing Street official admitted, Trump has done something that we don't agree with, but there's a reason why people are behind him on this. Keir Starmer's Monday speech will argue that globalization has failed working people while seeking a, quote, different path than trade wars. This remarkable shift from Britain's Labour government signals how dramatically Trump has reshaped international economic thinking. Now, folks, before we really unpackage all of this, I want to be honest with you all. I think there are some very valid reasons to not like Keir Starmer. I myself am not exactly his biggest fan. But with all of that being said, I do want to be fair and acknowledge that it does sound like Keir Starmer is handling this entire trade war tariff situation much more intelligently than most of the other world leaders. In fact, take a look at what Prime Minister Keir Starmer had to say just 3 days ago when President Trump's tariffs first went into effect.
Last night, the President of the United States acted for his country, and that is his mandate. Today, I will act in Britain's interests with mine. Decisions we take in coming days and weeks will be guided only by our national interest. And clearly there will be an economic impact from the decisions that the US has taken, both here and globally. But I want to be crystal clear. We are prepared. Indeed, one of the great strengths of this nation is our ability to keep a cool head.
And so, folks, like I said earlier, none of that was particularly inflammatory or aggressive. In fact, I think all of that was pretty level-headed. Keep in mind, right now, almost every other world leader is absolutely freaking out because President Trump has imposed these fair and reciprocal tariffs. But Prime Minister Keir Starmer seems to be taking the level-headed route here, acknowledging that President Trump has actually raised some pretty valid concerns. Now, as it relates to all of this, I want you guys to check out this clip from the conservative commentator Victor Davis Hanson. Take a look.
April 3rd, Donald Trump announced it as Liberation Day. By that he meant we were going to be liberated from asymmetrical tariffs of the last 50 years. And it was going to inaugurate a new, what he called, golden age of trade parity. And yet the world seemed to erupt in anger. It was very strange, which brings up another question. Are our tariffs really tariffs? That is, were they preemptive? Were they punitive? No, they're almost leveled on autopilot. Whatever a particular country tariffs us, we reciprocate and just mirror image them. In other words, it's their choice, not ours.
Now, folks, that is the key thing to keep in mind here when we're talking about President Trump's tariffs. All President Trump has done is impose reciprocal tariffs on other countries. None of his tariffs are just coming out of nowhere. No, they're all meant to be reciprocative towards the tariffs that other countries have imposed on us. And so really, when you look at this entire situation through that lens, you begin to realize that if these other countries are willing to drop their tariffs on the United States, then we will drop ours on them. At which point, there will be no more tariffs. It's really pretty simple. Here's the truth. President Trump actually does want free trade, but in order to have free trade, first, you need to have fair trade. And so this is exactly what Prime Minister Keir Starmer has come to realize. He's realized that globalism has absolutely screwed over middle-class workers. He's realized that President Trump is totally justified in imposing all of these reciprocal tariffs, and he's realized that the best path forward for the United Kingdom is to stop playing hardball with the United States of America. And you know what? These are all pretty intelligent positions to have when you consider that the United States economy is 8 times larger than the United Kingdom's. What that means is that even if he really wanted to, the United Kingdom is not going to win a trade war with the United States. But so, folks, all of this is actually a massive win for President Trump and the United States of America, because the United Kingdom's decision here may just end up being one of the first dominoes to fall in the process of all of these other foreign countries coming to their senses. Really, all it takes is a few other countries to start acknowledging that President Trump's trade requests and reciprocal tariffs are, in fact, reasonable, and before you know it, President Trump will have completely leveled the entire global trade playing field. In fact, as many of you might remember, following President Trump's requests to help secure the southern border, Mexico has actually made a serious concerted effort to meet President Trump's demands. And you know what happened? President Trump walked back almost all of the tariffs that he had originally planned for Mexico. Seriously, despite the ongoing narrative from the far-left progressive propaganda media, President Trump isn't just acting like some raging bull in a fine china shop. No, he's actually being very reasonable and selective with how he's handling all of these trade negotiations. Trade negotiations, we might add, that not a single other American leader in the last several decades had the courage to tackle. And you know what? Here's the truth. President Trump isn't just tackling the negotiations. No, he's actually achieving win after win for the American people. What's going to happen over the next couple weeks is that slowly, country after country around the world will be forced to come to terms with Trump's fair and reciprocal tariffs, either agreeing to pay the fee to access the American market or agreeing to remove their own tariffs on American products. Either way, America wins, and this is why all of the radical progressive globalists are freaking out right now. The truth is that for decades, they've been trying to strip as much wealth out of this country as they possibly could, but now, for the first time in ages, President Trump is doing something about it. And let's be honest, as we've seen with Mexico and now the United Kingdom, all of these other countries knew exactly what they were doing, taking advantage of America's incompetent trade policies. And so now, any world leaders with a shred of integrity are just admitting that the jig is up and the taxpayer-funded free ride is over. And so, in summary, that is the effect that President Trump is having on the global economy right now. Or in other words, as we all like to say, President Trump is putting America first. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up with today's video, I want to say real quick that I've actually gone ahead and made a community Facebook page where I'll be posting additional news and updates as it relates to all of this. So hey, if you guys use Facebook, check out the pinned comment down below and give that page a follow. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for this video, so please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there. Hey, if you guys enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton with my daily struggle here on YouTube. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.